Hello, I'm Coach Lance Meyer at the Green Room Art Studio, and today we're going to do a little mini lesson on painting with Sharpie markers. We're going to be painting a beach scene. As you can see up on the top corner there, I have for you a little picture of a beach scene, and so we're going to have some fun with some Sharpie pens. So here we go. We'll start off. One of the things that if you look even at the picture, you can kind of see this. You can see that the top is usually a little bit of a darker blue. So I've got kind of a medium to dark Sharpie pen here, and we're just gonna have a little fun with this. We'll just get some darker colors. I use kind of the side of the Sharpie, and we're just gonna kind of move very quickly up on the top here. A lot of times I use paints, but today we're just gonna have a little fun with a Sharpie pen. Now you can use Crayolas, you can use any marker. I just happen to have some watercolor paper here, or you could use cardstock or any other paper. But you'll notice on top here, I'm just kind of coloring in this blue area. And I could always come back with a little bit, even if I had a little darker one. This is a nice, pretty blue, though. And just kind of running back and forth here. Now, as I get to maybe halfway across here, so on the, or I should say about a quarter across, I'm going to switch to an even lighter blue. I'm going to do a little bit with that. This actually has a little purple tint to it, but that's all right. It's a little lighter. Sometimes that's actually good having a little purple, because as you come down, a lot of times the sky will end up being a little bit more of a purplish color. So that's not the worst thing either. But a light blue color. I may even overlap that a little bit, see what we get. Okay. Yeah, don't worry about getting it all perfect. It's art. All right, now I'm going to check one more blue if that's the same or not. That looks like the same. Okay, so I'm just going to do that there. Now, what we're going to do is grab a little bit of kind of a yellowish color as you look in the sky there. Now, when you're painting and even using these markers, one of the tricks is to not allow this to turn green, okay? Not saying a green sky never happens, but generally speaking, it's not. So, now one advantage we have is my blue has got a little purple in it, so that's going to keep it from turning as much green. I'm going to put some yellows in here, bring that down here, and I have drawn in very lightly a place where we're going to put the sun. So I'm going to go and get my yellows in here. Some markers you can actually take a paintbrush back over the top. Sharpies you can't really do that, but you can. I'm going to go to about right there to the edge of this sun. I'm actually going to kind of color in around the sun here a little bit with my yellow. There we go. So you can kind of see where that circle is. And okay, now what I'm going to do is grab some of this orange, and I'm going to actually start that right on the horizon line. So I've drawn that nicely in with a pencil. Here's my orange. There's my horizon line. And now I'm going to kind of build up from that. And I'm just going to kind of get this up over here. I'm going to actually come back a little bit more with that yellow. I'm realizing I may want to have a little more yellow because that orange and yellow will mix a little better, but you need to do the yellow first or you'll really dirty up your yellow marker. So, made that a little wider, as you can see. And now I'm going to come back with those oranges. So I've got actually a couple oranges here. I've got kind of that darker one in there. I'm going to do just a little more on that. And then I'm going to grab this little bit lighter orange. Now, if you don't have it, that's fine, but yeah, you can see this color. Now I'm going to mix that with the yellow. So I've got 2 or 3 different colors here. This is nice. Go a little lighter up into that yellow. I'm going to make these little streaks kind of coming out from the sun that you'll maybe see sometimes. All right, so now we have, I like this. We kind of have a couple, 2, 3 shades. You kind of have this light orange, you've got the orange and the yellow, and then the darker orange in here too. So I like the way that's looking. And here I'm just going to kind of lightly do that a little bit. And now I'm just going to look back at this. Okay, I'm going to come back with just a little bit of that darker orange one more time in a couple spots, like this kind of thing. Make it a little artsy. Yeah, kind of in and around the sun a little bit. Okay, and I'm even going to try one more little thing here. I've got kind of a pink one here too. Again, you may not have all these colors. That's okay. Work primarily with a yellow and an orange and a blue, and that'll be fine. I'm going to adjust this. I'm experimenting here a little bit, but I got a little bit of a reddish purple over here. I'm just going to stick a little bit of that, yeah, out over here a little bit. Okay, kind of a real fiery color there. Okay, what I want to be able to do is run it up here, but let's see here. I don't know if that's going to be good or not, but yeah, I'll throw a little bit of that up there. Okay, let us now start working into the blue water. Okay, normally the darkest point will be the horizon line. Now in this case, in this particular picture, that's not exactly the case, but I'm going to kind of live with or go with the just the thought that that horizon line usually is one of the darker places. So I'm going to pick my darkest blue. In this case, I'm actually going to grab kind of a little bit of a purpley color. But if you have kind of a darker blue, what you're going to want to do here is start on this on one side and kind of run that as, you know, you might even want to use a flat ruler. But watch what I'm going to do here. I'm going to come to about the point where the sun starts, and I'm going to stop right there. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. That line, and then I'm leaving just a little bit. But this, you want to try to get as straight as you can. Now, I may choose to come down one more time, but I'm maybe just going to leave a little tiny bit of white and do the same thing here with that darker color. Same thing over here. Maybe just leave a little, so you got these little streaky things in there, like little waves or whatever. I can always come back and darken those. But if I leave a couple spots, then I got some waves I can play around with later. I'll move that up so you can kind of see what I mean. Yeah, you can hopefully see, there we go, at least a little bit. And as we go here, you'll be able to see that come together a little bit. So I used a little bit of a purple in the background because I know I want that to be the darkest. Now I'm going to come back with a little bit of that pretty blue, and I've got a couple choices here. I'm going to grab kind of similar to what I had up on the top of the sky there, and now I'm going to bring another, and here I'm going to, you'll notice what I'm doing with my hand. I'm not necessarily drawing a straight line. I'm kind of just using a little kind of back and forth motion here, and it can relapse up into the darker color a little bit. I'm leaving this little area around the sun, so we get a nice little sun set. And notice I'm not coloring everything in. I'm trying to make these little wavy motions back and forth. I may want to try to look at my picture a little bit and just kind of see what's going on there. Now, it is, yes, as I'm doing that, it's going to be important I leave some white areas because, and I maybe should have did that first, is I do want to leave a little area for some of this yellow. So I'm just going to add a little bit in that in there. And some of these other, yeah, you see that's kind of turning green, like I was saying before. So I'm going to actually, probably should have did this first, kind of the yellow and oranges in this water because you have a sunrise and sunset. So I'm going to just throw some of that in this white area here. Okay, kind of coming down about 3/4 of the way down the page and bringing that a little bit into my blues a little bit. Now, I kind of messed up on this side. It'll be all right, but I'm going to do this a little earlier over here. Put these oranges in here and then come back over the top with the blues. Don't want to do too many, but you do want a little bit of that color in there. Okay, and I'm going to come back over here and just catch a couple of those white areas with some of that orange. Okay, and then I'm going to actually come back with a little bit more yellow. Again, I probably doing this out of order a little bit, but we're learning as we go here. Bring a little bit of that yellow into this. Try to keep this a lot white, but we want to have some of that. I'm going to bring that all the way down here. We know this yellow is going to run almost to the bottom of the page. So just just going to show you that if hopefully you can see this. Yeah, the yellows, I don't know if you can see that real well, but I did bring the yellow all the way down here, okay? You can kind of see it a little bit. And now I'm going to grab again some of this light orange and just kind of run that. Now my water actually only runs to about right here, but I want to have a couple of these little orangey, yellowy colors kind of in wave shapes a little bit. So not perfectly done. One more little round of yellow before I really start hitting back hard with the blues, okay? All right. Again, may not be perfect, but we've got a little bit in there. Now, coming back with the blues. Again, I've got, ooh, look at that bright kind of, well, it's actually okay to have a little bit of a greeny color as you get closer to the front of your picture. Okay, got some of those blues. Hopefully we're getting a little bit of a wavy action in there. And now I'm going to bring that, and now I'm going to grab a lighter blue. This one's actually a little more greeny blue, and that is okay now as I get into the front. Water will tend to be a little bit more greeny. And we're just going to kind of get that going here. Now, it's not going to be completely white or yellow, so we are going to have a few of these kind of wavy things in here too. Adding those back in. Kind of got to remember where my water is going to end here, so I got to be a little careful on that. I'm just going to kind of put a couple of spots. Now notice these are going to start getting wider, okay? As you get closer to the foreground, you know, your spaces of white are going to be farther, if that makes sense. I kind of have a bluish green in there. Yeah, it's just kind of a little bit of what colors I have here, but that's not all bad. So I'm going to come back with just a little more blue as well. And if you have a little bit more of a true blue, kind of a navy-ish color, you may want to, if you look at that picture there, I'm talking the original, you have kind of a line. I'm going to just try to put that in here a little bit. So I'm using a little darker color, and we're going to have this kind of wave kind of coming in through here. And I'm even going to bring that through that shadow, or through the light, I should say. And something like that. So we kind of have a wave that's kind of running across there. And again, there's another one kind of running in through here. And we'll put that in there too. Again, waves are not perfect, so I am kind of moving my hands kind of jittery a little bit. There may be a little more of a white on top of the wave, so I'm kind of drawing above that a little bit. So we kind of get some of those white spots there. And then maybe some spots where it's a little more blue. Kind of doing that a little bit. So we got a little bit of a feel. Now, if I want to, one other little technique is I'm going to come back with a little bit of that darker purple or dark blue. If I had a real dark blue, I would use that. But I'm going to go on the bottom of this wave just so we have kind of a wavy, trying to draw little areas that are, now it's going to make that a little darker on the bottom of the crest, or bottom part of that wave, I should say. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing here. On the bottom of the wave, just going to add a little darker in there. Okay, now we have to decide what we're doing in this foreground part here. So even though on my picture it kind of has a little blue gleam to it, we'll come back to that. I really think that we're going to have to start with some yellow. So I'm going to actually paint or color this bottom part with quite a bit of yellow. Side of the brush again, or side of the marker. I'll make this pretty yellow, sandy yellow. Leave that little white area where the sun's coming in there, and maybe bring a yellow back up into the water a little bit. Okay. Leave a couple little white gaps, but basically I'm going to color that in mostly yellow. Now I'm going to try to find, I actually have a little bit of a beigey. I'm going to play around with this one a little bit. Might be a little bit of a brownish color. Feel free to use like an orange, but I'm going to just play around with this a little bit. and try to make some little sandy kind of sand, maybe it's footprints or whatever. I'm just going to try to put in a couple little darks in there. I'm going to tell you this, purple and yellow sometimes work really well together too. So we'll get back to that in a moment here, but I'm just adding, this is turning out really nice. So it is kind of a tannish color, brown, light brown that I'm putting in here. So in this case, this particular Sharpie, I kind of like this color, but I know I have done, I'm going to put just a little bit of that into that white area and maybe even bring it across the bottom there. Okay. Hopefully that you can see a little. Yeah, you can see it's a little bit off yellow. I like that. You've got the yellow and just a little bit of that tannish color. You could. Here's what I'll do. Some of you have a little brown. I'll put just a couple little brown spots in there. So again, it could be a little footprint, and not going to get carried away with this brown, but I'm just going to have a couple spots that maybe are a little darker, especially toward this foreground here a little bit. Do the same thing over here. Just add a couple of those little spots a little bit. Again, trying to kind of be herky-jerky a little bit and not too much. Just add a little bit of that color in there. And then if you have a light purple, that is not a bad option either. Yeah, I actually have a little bit of this light purple. So I'm going to go to the, yeah, that line you can kind of see on the picture. So you've got this wave here. I'm going to just actually kind of pick up as the water's kind of coming into the beach. We kind of also have a little line in through here. And again, it's not going to be a straight line. I'm going to kind of build these little herky-jerky movements. I'm going to have a little bit through the sunlight. And then, yeah, something like that. And then I'm just going to bring that color a little bit into the foreground a little bit. And purple and that yellow, and even as I add even a little bit of orange. I got to be careful because orange will kind of take over a painting. You'll notice we have these really dominant colors in and around the sun, and so that's good. But now we got to be a little careful, but we're going to take, let's start with a little light orange, and we're going to put that just, again, in and around these browns, maybe a little bit. Just a couple, add a little interest, maybe to the side here a little bit. And I don't want to get too much in there, maybe especially to the foreground. But just a couple little orange spots in here. That gives it a nice little color, too, to that yellow, without getting too carried away with it. Okay, so we got a little orange color in there. And I got a little fun pink here. So we're going to have a little fun with that pink too. What the heck, huh? So I'm going to put that actually in and around as I get closer to the sunlight. Got to be a little careful not to put too much. And I'm going to bring just a little bit of that into this area, in and around the sun. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but we're going to do it. I like that hot pink, so we're going to play around with that a little bit. All right. Okay, so now we kind of have our picture, in a sense, what we call semi-finished here, okay? You could even stop here, but we want to take a look at it. So one of the really good things you want to do is actually get away from your picture. Now, in this setting, it may not be real, I can't necessarily do that a lot, but what I want to do is just kind of get my eyes, as far away from my painting as our picture as I can, and I want to just kind of look for, first of all, kind of the overall, what am I feeling? What am I sensing in there? What feels good? And I will say this is one of the best lessons you can get right now is every painting, every picture you do, there are going to be parts of it that you like and parts of it you don't. And it doesn't matter what level of artist you are. It's kind of like life. There's sin in the world. And even the best days have bad things. And your worst days, if you look carefully, have some good things in them. The same thing is true in our art. I'll tell you what I love about this picture is the vibrant colors. I really like how this blue up here on the top kind of blends into this lighter blue, and then you get this, the colors of I like the sunshine and stuff. Now, that's what I like. Now, parts of it that I don't really care for, I'm not so sold on how this kind of comes into the water, into the water onto the land. not real pleased with that. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to come back now with a little bit of a blue. And what I'm going to try to do is kind of create a little bit of a funnel of the, of the sunlight coming this way a little bit. And I'll do that by actually kind of working out from, you see here, there we go, we're getting it. Going to kind of funnel that. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to start on this inner and just kind of push that a little bit that way. Okay, that way. Just kind of blend that a little bit. We still got some nice whites in the water yet. We haven't taken those all away. But now I've got, yeah, that looks a little better. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I've got a nice little edge of the sun coming in, edge of the sun coming in. I still got some color and stuff in there. You can look at the sun itself. Do I like the way, right now I got a pretty white sun. That's great. Do I like, it's not a perfect circle. Maybe I want to make it a little more of a circular shape. I'll come back with my yellow here and clean that up. Now it doesn't have to be perfect circle either. I am going to turn mine a little more of a circle, but it doesn't have to be. Now you can, you've seen this with the sun, sometimes those little orange will come a little bit into the sun. So it's kind of broken up a little bit. I'm going to do that just a little bit. You got to be a little careful not to get too carried away with that, but we'll do that a little bit. And then I'm also going to bring a little more of this orange into, especially on the top here, into that whitish area. Okay, so now as you look at this picture, here's another problem that I see is on the sides, which is always hard. I was put this tape here. Sometimes now I got too many whites over there. So I'm going to come back just a little bit and add a little more blue on the sides over here. So that's not all just white. There we go, and maybe a little bit over here too. And then I want to just look at overall what that looks like. Okay, now we could stop right here, and we have a picture that's pretty solid, pretty decent. Let me try flipping it this way once and just kind of see what you're able to see. Okay, so. You like the colors in there? You kind of, I like, I kind of like that beach a little bit. You can see those little waves. We can see the sun kind of setting and stuff coming across here. Is it a great painting? No. Or a great picture? No. But you've got a nice vibrant colors in there. Now, I'm going to try to do one more thing. And again, you could stop right here, and this would be fine. But I'm going to try to put this little surfer guy in there a little bit. So with that, we are going to need a little bit of a darker color. So I'm going to grab this, this purple over here. And when I do that, I'm going to start him right here. Now, what I'm going to do is just kind of get the shape of those legs kind of coming in through here. And a little bit down in here. And then I'm going to bring that that surfboardy guy. I'm going to bring him up this way a little bit. I'm going to cut mine into the wave a little bit. That isn't necessarily how it is on the picture, but I'm just going to move that around a little tiny bit. Okay. And then we've got just a little bit of his body showing here, and then the head. So I'll look at my picture a little bit. Okay, so the head's going to be something like this here. And I got him with maybe a little hat on or something. Again, not necessarily a perfect human being, but we've got this little leg shape here and kind of a little body with a little hat on top. Sometimes we'll call those Yumo people. They kind of look like an upside down U and a little head on the top there. So. And then we've got a couple people playing out in the sun here, so we'll maybe put those guys. What I like to do, to be honest with you, what I like to do, rather than say, oh, they were exactly in this spot, I like to kind of look at my picture and go, ooh, that's a good spot for a person to be. Or so I'm going to bring, I see some kind of white areas that I kind of look like a human a little bit. And I'm just going to, he's kind of half in the water here. And there we go. And maybe, just maybe, I'm using purple here, maybe this person actually is, as they're getting close to the sun, might be a little more of a brownish orange. So I've got the purple, it's like I said, orange and purple will kind of work together a little bit. So just getting a little shape of a person kind of in here and kind of bringing that orangish color toward the sun a little bit. And they're going in the water, so you wouldn't necessarily see the whole body. And it may not be a perfect person, but I've got kind of a shape of a person there. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. Now this person is going to have their hands up a little bit. And I'm just going to kind of do this, and a kind of a part of a body with a little head up in there. How's that? And now that one too, I'm going to add just a little bit of the orange to the side of that body. Maybe over here just a little bit. Okay. But that one would end up being a little darker. Now I'm just going to look back on that. Oh, I just want just a little bit of a hand on this side. Maybe kind of coming down like this. They're kind of playing in the water here. I like this left one. I'm not so sold on this one, but okay, now I got to look back at my surfer guy. Is that okay? Now, one of the things you'll notice in the surfer, if you look closely, is not only I drew the positive, we would say, you know, I've got my surfer guy in there, but not only that, but now he's got a shadow and stuff too, right? So we'll have some, now we always have to get this, whichever way it is this way, it's going to be opposite. So I'm going to bring it kind of this way, and it maybe not be quite as, notice I'm leaving a couple whites here because it's waves, and then this goes toward his feet, but I'll leave a couple whites, and then this shadow kind of ends up in here. So maybe darken that a little bit more. But we've got a little shadow like that. Okay, now let's just take a quick look at that. Okay, so I think add just a little darker back up in here. And maybe even create a little head in there. Just I'm not real happy with that person, but that's all right. It's somewhat, we got some people out there. All right, so I will turn this, hopefully you can see it a little bit. Now, again, I'm going to say this again. Is this like the perfect, greatest painting ever? No, it's not. But, boy, does it have some pretty colors in it. And this is using Sharpie pens or markers, okay? There's a lot of different ways to do that. Someday I'll try to come back and do this with some watercolor too, and you can see some different effects that way. But I am, again, I think we're at a point where we can say, well, this is good for today, right? Sometimes it's good to wait another day and come back. Now, the last thing we just need is just a little signature. So usually, when I put my signature, I'm going to find a spot, like I like this spot here, kind of either right below the water or right above the water. I'll go just, but I try to find a spot on the painting that's usually about an inch in and a little bit off the edge. Some of you have seen my signature. Usually have a little, or not usually, I have a little basketball in my signature. And then I use my first and last name. And then I put a little cross. And we put our basketball number 22 and a little fish underneath. Now, your signature, I've used this signature many, many years. So you can use your signature. You can use just your first and last letters, or first letters, I should say, of your first and last name. You can do little symbols. You be creative with your own signature, okay? But you can put that in there as well. All right, I'll try to show that one more time. Hopefully you can see kind of our final product. All right, that is Sharpie marker painting with Coach Meyer here at the Green Room Art Studio. God bless you today.